Some customers look completely normal on paper, yet their activity can quietly move millions in illicit funds. In this module, you'll learn how to spot those high-risk profiles and red flags early, before they turn into regulatory findings or headline cases. In AML, high risk doesn't mean criminal. It means the customer or activity is more vulnerable to misuse, based on their profile, products, or geography. A high-risk label should trigger deeper questions and enhance due diligence, not an automatic rejection. Your role is to distinguish between higher inherent risk and genuinely suspicious behavior. When we talk about high-risk customers, we're really talking about the main risk drivers. First, influence and power. Politically exposed persons can abuse their office or be targeted for corruption. Second, opacity and distance. Non-residents, offshore entities, and complex wealth structures make it harder to identify the real owner. Third, certain cash-heavy businesses and some NPOs or NGOs can obscure who is behind the funds and why. Politically exposed persons, or PEPs, are individuals entrusted with prominent public functions, plus their close associates and family members. Their influence and control over public funds create heightened exposure to bribery, corruption, and embezzlement. For AML, PEPs are not presumed criminals, but their positions are inherently higher risk and require enhanced scrutiny and stronger controls. Structures of obscurity are intentionally complex setups designed to break the audit trail. Think of non-resident clients or offshore shells using multiple holding companies, trusts, and foundations stacked together. The usual aim is to hide the ultimate beneficial owner, avoid tax, or move value beyond the reach of regulators and courts. For you, the risk is becoming comfortable with surface-level documentation. If you can't clearly explain who ultimately owns, controls, and benefits, you're already in high-risk territory. High volume, low traceability environments are classic money laundering gateways. Cash-intensive businesses like restaurants, casinos, and nightclubs can quietly mix illicit funds with daily takings. Money service businesses move cash quickly across borders, often with less traditional banking oversight. Focus on the mismatch between the business story and the numbers. Cash levels that don't fit the stated model, daily deposits structured just under thresholds, or heavy night and weekend activity when the business should be idle. Nonprofits and NGOs create a real paradox in AML and CFT. They provide essential humanitarian and social services, yet their cross-border reach, use of intermediaries, and operations in fragile or conflict zones make them attractive vehicles for diverting donations and moving terrorist funds. These activities often involve cash or poorly documented projects that are difficult to audit. When you assess risk, think in terms of a red flag triad: behavior, structure, and transactions. Behavioral is how the client and counterparties act. Evasive answers, inconsistent stories, unusual communication channels. Structural is how they're set up. Complex ownership chains, opaque legal vehicles, or documentation that seems designed to create a paper trail illusion. Transactional is how money actually moves. Unusual volumes or speed, odd destinations, repeated structuring, or patterns that don't match the stated profile. Behavioral warning signs often tell you more than the documents. A customer who resists providing standard information may not be protecting privacy alone. They could be hiding a beneficial owner or true activity. Notice when people become defensive about basic details or keep changing their story about source of funds or business purpose. And be especially cautious when customers ask how to stay just under thresholds. That suggests deliberate attempts to evade monitoring and reporting. Money launderers know regulators rely heavily on documents, so they build an impressive-looking paper trail that breaks down when tested. Look for patterns rather than isolated facts. A company that constantly changes directors and owners, especially across borders, may be trying to break the audit trail. Multi-layer structures in high-risk jurisdictions without clear business reasons are another warning sign. Then compare the paperwork to reality. Implausible business models or documents that contradict transaction behavior usually mean the structure exists mainly to hide something. When you review transactions, ask a simple question. Does the flow of money make sense for this customer? Big sudden jumps in volume, very rapid in and out movements, or many small payments just below thresholds can all signal risk. So can transfers to locations or counterparties with no logical documented link to the customer's profile or business. The same core goal, moving illicit value, can look completely different across sectors. In retail banking, it might be unexplained cash for a supposedly quiet restaurant. In private wealth, it could be a foreign PEP layering offshore trusts with vague consulting income. In securities, it may be a non-resident corporate suddenly funding and liquidating complex positions, then wiring funds out. Your job is to read each pattern in its proper context. Crypto and virtual asset service providers change the risk picture. Transactions can move globally in seconds through pseudonymous addresses without traditional correspondent banks in the middle. That speed and opacity attract criminals, so regulators now expect strong onboarding controls, effective blockchain analytics, and clear escalation when crypto-related red flags appear. Treat each alert as a clue, not a conclusion. You start with three main inputs: who the customer is, how they behave and document themselves, and what their transactions look like. Your task is to connect these signals into one holistic risk picture. Once that picture is clear, choose the right outcome: more EDD, senior approval, a SAR or STR filing, or even exiting the relationship. What matters is consistent, well-reasoned decision-making. Effective AML work is never about a single data point. Always connect who the customer is, how they behave, and how money moves. Question inconsistencies in structures and documents. They often signal hidden risk. And when you see a credible red flag, document it, escalate it, and apply enhanced due diligence.